let's go through the video. This is the IDF put out a video, another video, quote unquote, proving that hospitals are where Hamas is hiding. So this is why they're bombing and shelling the hospitals. This is why they're targeting the hospitals. Don't be so shocked that it's hospitals. They're going to give us the reason why, they say. So let's go ahead and go through this video. This is IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari walking through one of Hamas's subterranean terrorist tunnels, only to exit in Gaza's Rantisi hospital on the other side. And they claim that inside these tunnels, Hamas terrorists hide, operate, and hold Israeli hostages against their will. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
I'm here in Gaza City. We are here next to a house of a terrorist. This is one of the senior terrorists who is the head of the operational naval operations that led the raids into Israel. His house is right next to a school. His house is 200 yards from the hospital of Rantisi. Next to his house, there is a tunnel.
Okay, so here they're trying to show the tunnel. So they're saying that that house belongs to this big leader. Next to his house is a school. I mean, that's typical. People live in neighborhoods.
Now I want to show you.
Now, before we go on to what he's showing you, I want you to look at that photograph real closely while I'm talking to you about this. But he's claiming, trust us, this house belongs to this leader. Next to the leader's house is a school. Well, the house was still standing. They could target the house. They have the ability to target just the house and not the school. He says that the hospital is 200 meters away. Okay, so why are you targeting the hospital when the house is 200 meters away? That's quite a distance. You could get to the house. You don't have to get to the hospital. They also showed a tunnel. The tunnel is not near the hospital. The hospital is, again, further away. So why, once again, would you target the hospital? You would target the tunnel, it seems, or the guy's house. So now he's standing here and he's going to show us a tunnel, he says. So here's what he says.
An operational tunnel. The tunnel is built with electricity. We first saw the solar panels, then the electricity goes here, and it goes down directly to the tunnel. Now you can see the tunnel. You can see the tunnel.
Do you know what needs electricity? Elevators. This is an elevator shaft. So he's saying this tunnel, look at this electricity that goes to this tunnel, and look at this tunnel.
Tunnel is let down more than 20 meters down. The rowboat
20 meters down.
A door that is bulletproof. It's explosives proof. So it looks like a hard evidence, a clear evidence that the hospital direction is connected. This is a cover tunnel.
Well,
it's part of the same floor, and it slides down here. So it's a cover tunnel, so nobody can find it. This is Rantisi.
Oh, it's okay. So the tunnel, that's an elevator shaft. He says, and there's metal doors down there. I mean, the last time I rode in an elevator, it had metal doors. I suppose that maybe are bulletproof or explosive proof because they're big, heavy metal doors. They're not made out of wood, that's for sure. Let's look at this. This is the evidence that this is actually an elevator shaft. We got a couple of things here. Do we think we have a tweet and an image? Do we have these? I don't know if we, yeah. So here's this person says, I used to work at a company that produced and installed elevators. So I know one when I see one. The electrical box contains a 3-phase inverter for elevator motors. I used to assemble this exact kind of box. In the elevator shaft, you could clearly see the rails and the flat cable. Right, so there's cables. He's saying, oh, look, it's the electricity that's going down into this tunnel, and they're using this electricity, and really this is just an elevator shaft, and this is like the service door to this elevator shaft. Here's another image that I just pulled randomly off the internet. I did a Google search for elevator shaft maintenance, and this is what it looks just like it. This is just a random picture I got off the internet in a 10-second search. So Hamas tunnel, elevator shaft for a hospital. I don't know. You be the judge. You be the judge on that. All right, let's keep going with this video. Can't hear it.
This is Rantisi Hospital.
Okay.
And this is the place where I showed you the tunnel. I want you to see.
Okay, so, and that's the other tunnel. That's the other tunnel. So just to be clear, what he's showing us was the first tunnel. So when he's saying there's the hospital over there and there's the tunnel I showed you, not the elevator shaft tunnel. We're talking about the first tunnel that he said was next to that guy's house.
The hospital. Hamas
200
used this
meters
hospital.
away.
Tonight we have entered into this building. I will show you the evidence. Let's enter into the hospital. We're now entering into
Okay, so just to be clear, we did not go down the tunnel, okay? So remember that, because the way they edit this is very clever. They show us the tunnels, and then they show us the hospital, and now they say, now let's go into the hospital. But they did not go down the tunnel.
Area of the hospital where we had found the evidence. This operation was conducted by Israeli Special Unit, the Israeli Navy SEALs. This is still an operation that is conducting, and I'm showing you the first evidence to see.
Okay. And he said, I might have been talking
We
over
are
it,
now,
but he said,
we are now in the area of the basement of the hospital.
oh, no. Okay, he's saying it now. So we're just in the basement of the hospital. This is not an underground tunnel way below 200, 20 meters or whatever below that. This is the basement. Many buildings have basements. Lots of buildings have basements. Hospitals have basements. So he's just showing us the basement. This is not a Hamas tunnel. So remember that,
I want to show you a room
because he's told us.
Where we found all the gear, the operational gear of Hamas. Hamas is using hospitals, like we showed the evidence in Shifa Hospital. In other hospitals, we are now seeing it in live in Rantisi Hospital. An operation still conducting right now. Look at what Hamas is holding inside the hospital. I want you to understand, this kind of gear is a gear for a major fight.
I mean, even I don't think that looks like gear for a major fight. I mean, look, this is very dangerous gear. You've got grenades there. You have machine guns, right? I mean, you've got like all of these things, automatic rifles, I guess, or I don't know. I can't see. Or grenades, but this doesn't look like a lot. And they've gathered them all in one spot. So it wasn't like they went down there and they found the cache of weapons and they're live streaming this to us. They've clearly gathered the laptops and the weapons and stuck them in one spot. And so that makes it suspicious because it's unclear. Did they put weapons there? Did they plant these weapons? IDF soldiers could have brought these weapons in from outside that they found in the battlefield as they've been fighting Hamas, and they could have gathered them up and just carried them in here. This is enough for a couple people to carry, and to stick them in a staged area like this. It would have been much better if they walked through the tunnel without it, let us see for the first time this supposed tunnel. It's not the tunnel, it's the basement of the hospital. And then open up the door and we saw the cache of weapons, or we just see weapons strewn out all over the place. But instead, this is a gathered, this could be staged. It might not be staged. It's possible that they found these weapons and they put them all in this area just to show us how many weapons they had down there. But it also could be completely staged, and that's the problem with this video. And he's in the basement that is clearly being used by the hospital for, plenty of buildings use their basements. They have church buildings use their basements, and that's where they do Sunday school. Basements are utilized. They're not often just storage and dark dungeons where spiders grow and live. They're oftentimes used for actual living purposes. Many people have living basements.
These are explosives. These are vests with explosives. Yeah, it's a body vest for terrorists to explode on forces. Among hospitals, among patients, we have hand grenades, Kalashnikovs, and then we have the RPGs. People shooting RPGs from hospitals. This is Hamas, firing RPGs for hospitals. The world has to understand who is Israel fighting against. We are now in the basement, and in this basement we found a motorcycle. They were all used in the massacre of the 7th of October.
How do we know? So he's found one motorcycle, and he says this motorcycle was used in the October 7th attack, or maybe a doctor rides a motorcycle to work. Plenty of people ride bikes, and they're not terrorists.
They even have bullets in this motorcycle. So they came back from the massacre on the 7th of October into Rantisi Hospital with hostages on a motorcycle. We're still researching this.
And we don't know what that is.
We find the chair, a woman, clothes, and a rope. a rope next to the legs. And look above
there's
this.
that didn't look like a rope. That was like a string. And there's women's clothes, could be scrubs, a nurse's scrubs.
Look above it. It's a baby bottle. It's a baby bottle in the basement.
Well, because there were also children's it was clearly an area used for childcare, or a place where they entertained children that were getting treatment. I mean, we saw that this was clearly decorated for children. There are babies also in hospitals and toddlers who use bottles.
Above a World Health Organization sign. This is a suspicion for an area where hostages were being held. We're now looking at an infrastructure. You don't need to build something improvisedly in a hospital in the basement. Unless you want to hold someone in the basement, you don't want anyone to see him. Again, we're in the same basement, and here we see diapers, and we see, I don't know, maybe something. We see diapers.
Yeah, because there's
I want you to
babies
see
in a
this
hospital.
room. It's in the basement of the hospital. We can see this area
not a
is
tunnel.
a closed area from the rest of the hospital. We can see the ventilation air that was done improvisedly to this area.
No, maybe not improvisedly, but maybe because Gaza doesn't have a lot of money, and so their hospitals are not the most sophisticated. And basements, have you ever been to somebody's basement, an unfinished basement in their house that they plan to finish? And when they do finish it, do you notice that sometimes there's a lot of exposed vents and it doesn't look like the rest of the house because it's the basement? That's, he's pointing these things out and trying to say to you, this is evidence, and this is not evidence. This is just a basement of an abandoned hospital. If we would have walked through it and said, well, this clearly used to be used for where they had children playing. There was decorations and nice, green paint on the walls and pictures on the walls. So clearly children were here at one point in this abandoned hospital that's been shelled and bombed. And so now we find random belongings that people didn't have time to grab as they were running from gunfire and bombs. I mean, this is, or you could say, well, no, this was a Hamas headquarters where they were holding hostages, and
we can
leave
see
it because I say so.
infrastructures
Yeah,
that
keep
was
going.
built in here: toilets, shower, a small kitchen, will provide the terrorists their needs. Also conduct a hideout where terrorists take hostages and hide out. And I will show you now the evidence. You're now entering into the room where we suspect the hostages were being held. I want you to look at this room. People are putting curtains with nothing above, just wall. No reason to put here a curtain unless you want to film hostages and deliver movies. And now we'll show you more evidence.
Okay.
Okay,
but I would like to see, now if he showed me a movie with the hostage sitting in front of that curtain, that's one thing.
Room.
Okay. So maybe he will.
There is a list. This list, in Arabic, this list says we are in an operation. The operation against Israel started in the 7th of October. This is a Guardian list where every terrorist writes his name, and every terrorist has his own shift guarding the...
It's probably the nurse's shift. He's like, in Arabic, a list with shifts inside of a hospital. Who else would need to take shifts inside of a hospital?
People that were here. I'm here in Gaza City.
So that's it. So is that it? That's it. So we never got a video of a hostage in front of the curtain where he says, look, there's this curtain and hostages were here, and then why would you put a curtain in front of an ugly wall? Why would you do that? And what clearly looked like a nice sitting room with nice furniture. Why would you put that curtain there in front of that ugly blank wall unless you're going to film hostages? Or maybe you just want to cover the ugly blank wall. I mean, this is the stuff that we're getting out of the IDF as evidence in order to get us to go along with the fact that civilians are being targeted and being killed inside of hospitals. That these are crimes against these are war crimes. The Geneva Conventions made this very clear that you cannot be targeting hospitals. You cannot be targeting civilians, people inside of hospitals. It's very clear. Hospital, Article 14 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, hospital and safety zones may be established for wounded, sick, and aged children under 15, expectant mothers, and mothers of children under 7. So they have to have safety zones for hospitals. Civilian hospital, Article 18, civilian hospitals and their staff are to be protected. So these are, this is what they have to do. And yet they're targeting these hospitals. They're targeting these medical professionals. And they're saying, but believe us, because we've got this 3D illustration and some red outlines on a map of where we're telling you, we swear to you, there's Hamas headquarters down there. And then they show us underneath the hospital. And what do they show us? They show us clearly a basement of a hospital and an elevator shaft. This is how it's just, I'm at a loss for words on this because it's so outrageous. It's so unbelievable. I cannot believe they actually put this out there for people to gobble up. And more so, I can't believe people gobble this up. I mean, it's just so obviously fake. It's obviously lies. It's obviously, we saw a lot of the stuff that came out of the Russia-Ukraine war. We've seen people go into buildings and fighting and stuff that was very real. This is not real. This looks very staged. This is just take our word for it. Trust me, bro. Right? I mean, this is, and that makes the tragedy of what is happening to the Gazan people even worse. This type of fakery makes the tragedy of the children dying, of the sick dying, of the civilians being targeted, of the thousands of children who have been killed, and even thousands more who have been maimed, and the thousands more who are still buried alive under the rubble. This type of fakery is a mockery to those people who are being killed. And it's even worse that people are believing it when it's just so obviously fake. It's mind-blowing, but Hamas did issue a statement. We just want to get this one out for you real quick here. They said the allegations about Hamas using hospitals and civilians as human shields is nothing more than a bid to deny the facts and provide European cover for the Israeli occupation to commit more crimes against children and defenseless civilians. We strongly reject and denounce this attempt by European Union foreign policy official Borrell to distort the facts by pushing a false narrative that Hamas is using hospitals and civilians as human shields. We consider these remarks an EU cover for the Zionist occupation to commit more massacres against children and defenseless civilians, and we call on Borrell to immediately retract his shameful and inhumane comments. These serious statements ignore all the footage, testimonies, facts, and international reports confirming the truth that the Israeli army has willfully killed more than 11,000 people so far, the vast majority of whom were women and children. Civilians are being targeted, including in their homes and at shelter centers, schools, and internationally protected hospitals, with the aim of terrorizing and forcibly displacing them from their lands in a genocidal crime broadcast live in front of global media, Islamic resistance movement, Hamas. All right, guys, let me tell you about Field of Greens. You guys know that I do love this stuff. It's how I get all my energy throughout the day, keep my mind sharp, keep myself at the top of my game. This is, you got to get all your fruits and veggies, and Field of Greens is going to help you do that. It is a fine powder made from dehydrated whole fruits and vegetables that are carefully selected to give you the most nutrients in your diet possible. So when you just take a scoop of this powder and you mix it into your ice water, and it actually does taste good. It's like a tea. Like green tea with lemon I like the lemon lime, so that's what it tastes like. This is how you're going to get all of your fruits and vegetables into your diet without having to actually eat all the fruits and vegetables, because it's a lot. And most people don't. Everybody's snacking on other stuff. So Field of Greens is really amazing. It's going to give you those nutrients. And when you get those nutrients, you will have more energy. You will feel better. Your health will improve. Your stats, when you go to the doctor, they'll be like, wow, you're doing so well. What have you been up to? Well, you've been taking your Field of Greens, you've been getting all of your fruits and veggies, and that is important. So grab Field of Greens. You can get 15% off your first order by going to fieldofgreens.com and using the promo code Kim. Again, that is fieldofgreens.com, promo code Kim, and you will get 15% off your first order. I really do like this stuff. Genuinely, I do. It does taste good. I like that it's not a gloopy, green, thick drink. It's light and tea-like, and I enjoy it. So, and it really does work. Fieldofgreens.com, promo code Kim, 15% off your first order.